Hey, good morning. It is April 4th, 2024. This is the BlueGamer morning show. Yeah, it's early in the morning. Still need to wake up, but this is a good time to get into the gaming news. What I usually like to do is talk about some of the latest news that's going on and what I've been doing gaming-wise. To start, I actually didn't play any games yesterday. That happens from time to time, but I did some gaming related things. So as I was doing some work, I had heard in the background my wife continuing to play that Disney Illusion Island game. Again, we had beaten it, but when we beat it, she noticed the map was like 60, or the progress on the save file was 65%, and she was like, "Wait a minute, there's more we can get." And what's really cool is once you beat the game, it unlocks the fast travel. Because I was actually very surprised how minimal the fast travel was in this, although I kind of like that they do that. But yeah, once you complete the game, you can like fast travel to any mailbox. That's like a checkpoint in the game. And there's tons of them because in this game, you are to die a lot. For it being a Disney game, it's kind of silly, but you can then fast travel anywhere and then complete portions of the map to continue that progress. Okay, next up. So other than that, again, I wasn't playing any games, but I did do something game related I think is very important, and I want to make a video on this. Now, this has to do with managing your ROMs. You could have a ROM collection over time, and from what I've realized is sometimes it can be a bit messy if you're not cleaning it. And what do I mean by that? I don't know. I had to research and figure that out myself. I just noticed when I'm using front-end emulator systems that it would be messy sometimes. So I want to try to find a way to clean that up. So as I am syncing my libraries across devices, it's just a clean, straightforward approach to that. So what I did was you could search online. Again, I'll have to get the links for a DAT file, DAT. Just type in like console or ROM DAT files. It's a database file. It's basically something you download that says, okay, here's what a database of these games would look like. And what that does is it helps to make sure you can match that to get an accurate database. Obviously, there's a lot of custom games out there, either custom games people have made, homebrewed stuff, hacks, and so you can choose like what the database contains. Anyway, you download this database file, and then you use a another search for ROM Central, I think, or ROM Station. Ooh, I'll have to get that. But anyway, what this does, search for each one and see if it allows you to download. And what basically it does is you launch it, you put in your database file that we talked about, and then you point to your specific ROM folder, not your entire ROMs, but like, if it's the database file for Genesis or Super Nintendo, then that folder. What it does is it matches it and it goes through and cleans it. And it's amazing. It's made my ROM collection so much cleaner. But what's funny is I use that app sync thing to sync ROMs and saves across all my devices. So I made a mistake. I was able to save myself though, but on my main PC where I have my ROM collection, when I did that cleanup, it deleted the save files for one of the Castlevania games. Luckily, I was able to go into my Android phone, which it hadn't synced with yet, and I took that save out to save it. Now, what it ended up doing anyway was in sync thing, it stopped the syncing of those folders we talked about, because when I then did that rename, when it went through the folder and fixed everything, it actually also removed this certain file that sync thing looks at. It's another database file pretty much to be like, okay, this is the function I'm doing to sync, and so it's like, okay, it's not there anymore, so I just have to resync that stuff. There's a lot of trial and error I'm doing to get to a point where I can make a video to show people how to go through this process. Once you have your ROM collection, however you get that, it's then cleaning it up, making it look nice, so then you can use that in sync thing to then sync that across other devices, so you can have like this seamless like experience that we have today with modern consoles and the handhelds, where depending on the publisher, I guess, or the developer, it's like there's games that I can play on the ROG Ally, on my PC, cross save. I love it. I want that for all my ROMs, all my retro games, the games I not only grew up with, but just retro games that I love, being able to beat them and have like this, as far as I know, this non-ending like sort of database or place where I can keep track of that. Because I also integrate retro achievements. So again, all these old school games I'm playing, I can also track achievement progress, which, I know, like, on one hand, I don't like achievements, but on the other hand, I do. It's more of I like it as a means of when I've completed a game, are there other little challenges I can do as I'm having fun with this game? And what's cool about the retro achievements, just like on Xbox, you can actually turn off the pop-up but still earn it. So it doesn't distract me while I'm playing. I gotta say, this has been a very fun experience learning how to sync all these ROMs, cleaning my ROM files, setting up these emulators on different OSs between Windows, Linux-based OSs, using it on Android, trying it on the Fire Stick TV. More to come, but if you have questions, let me know. Okay. Let's see. And let me think real quick if there's anything else that I was playing yesterday, but I don't think that was it. I didn't really do much. I didn't do any gaming at all except for organizing my ROMs. There was family stuff going on. Work, family. Just real quick, I watched the X-Men, the latest X-Men episode, and wasn't too crazy about that. It was okay. It was kind of like more of if you really like Jubilee. And then they kind of went to the Stormforge stuff at the end. I don't know. It was a weird episode, but it was cool. They did stuff with Mondo. Was it Mondo? What's that? Yeah, his name is Mondo. Doing all the crazy stuff he does in terms of the game type thing, because they had a lot of the pixel art, like showing like the old X-Men arcade game. Not really showing it, but kind of like that style. But what that made me think is, why have they not come out with a new X-Men arcade game? Now, that game was made by Konami, but Konami's been good about re-releasing things. But does it have to do with the rights being with Disney and Konami like wanting a boatload and Disney not wanting to give a boatload? Even though I heard that for the music in the X-Men animated, they paid a boatload to be able to use that. Hey, JamCal X, good to see you. Oh, you mean Mojo? Thank you. Yeah, Mojo. That's right. I think it was Montendo was where I got the Mondo from. Oh, no, the Mondo, they're making those X-Men figures that are like 12-inch that are really awesome. But Mojo, that's right, Mojo. Awesome. Okay. The other thing is, and I didn't really have time to this, I'm going through 3-body problem, which on one hand I think is really cool. On the other hand, it's kind of silly in a way, and I don't know if it's written in this way or it could be my ignorance that makes me feel this way, but like when I went through a phase where I was studying physics, astrobiology, like so much just for fun. I know it was weird. And so there's some baseline concepts that I understand, and it's kind of interesting how in this show 3-body problem, sometimes they'll bring them up, but like super surface level, and maybe that's done on purpose. But then sometimes it takes me out of what this show is. It seems like the show's like unraveling all these mysteries and just more mysteries on top of mysteries, while talking about science in a very surface level way, to where it's like, do these people really know what they're talking about? But I think it's how it's supposed to be written. Anyway, trying to get through that. I really want to see what it gets to. I think that's going to be more interesting than the sciencey talk along the way. I love the whole dynamic between science and, I don't want to say religion, but I want to say maybe cultural beliefs that are driving a society, and how sometimes science defies that. And it's not that people don't want to go with what's real, but it could be the idea of science maybe pushes away other ideas. So people see that as, it's very interesting. Very interesting. It goes both ways with science and culture and religion. Anyway, that's not too much gaming. Let's get back into some gaming. Specifically, gaming news. So again, this is brand new news that's come out. I am going to read the headlines and kind of give my thoughts on it. Hellblade 2 Studio Ninja Theory thinks its fans enjoy shorter, focused games. For the game that Hellblade 2 is trying to be, I 100% completely agree. I think it would be the same with the God of War games. The newer ones, where, a lot of the complaint, I haven't even played through them both. They're okay. They stay around longer than they should. That's been the main complaint of this latest Ragnarok. God of War Ragnarok, how they're like, it just slogs on forever. And I get it. But I think that's really cool because Hellblade 2 is this thing where it's almost like Xbox's answer to these narrative-driven, high production value games. And I think it being a shorter experience is going to allow more people to fully experiencing it. It might bring more conversation online about the game. I might try the game. I'm not too interested in it, but I just hope it does something for Xbox that PlayStation leaned too far into, and now they're kind of getting out of that. But okay, Saber Interactive founder says everyone seems to like to pick on Embracer. So I agree with this, and I find this very odd. Embracer isn't the typical large corporate sort of game company like an EA or an original Activision. In fact, Embracer was more of there trying to make sure all of these smaller devs that were, whenever all this stuff started happening 5-10 years ago, I forget, all these devs were getting split off, going to different companies or possibly being gone. And Embracer did this thing where they kind of brought them all back together to see, okay, can we make some games happen? And they couldn't, unfortunately. But at least they tried, and this guy's been pretty transparent. I mean, he even said, and this was what I thought was funny, people were criticizing him for, it was the CEO, saying that they knew there was a risk involved with what they were doing. And then people were criticizing, like, how could you take a risk like that? And it's like, whoa. He was just stating what every company is doing, where they were borrowing money to pay for game development that they weren't sure how much would come out of it, just based on the COVID time frame. Everyone thought that, we can make a whole bunch of money just by making a bunch of games. And that wasn't the case, as we've seen recently. And then Embracer's like, yeah, it's just not working. We're going to have to, let people go. And it's just weird to me. I feel like Embracer's being picked on because they are kind of the smaller of the big publishers. And I guess this just points more to what seems the discussion online with media outlets are generally, it's like someone has a negative opinion on something, then everyone jumps on it. And it's like, oh, wow, yeah, like Palworld. What was that? There's a bunch of things. The Xbox thing. There was a new one that just happened I talked about last week. But anyway, moving on, Ubisoft confirms Forward event during Summer Game Fest 2024. I have a lot of respect for Ubisoft. I've talked about it a lot. It's like, on one hand, I feel like I don't think about them or play their games. On the other hand, I do play their games. I wasn't really too into the new Prince of Persia. There's this Starlink game I think is incredible. Division 2 I played a whole ton of. I can't wait for their new Star Wars game. They're a good publisher, and I think this is an example too. A lot of times you hear people just talk crap about Ubisoft, and that's something where if you hear that person is just bored. Let's see what else is going on here. So I have this little feed thing I use to kind of look at what the latest news is, if I'm not like listening to podcasts throughout the day. So Hellblade 2 runs at 30 FPS on, wow. Okay. So PC will be the place if you want that 60 FPS. I'm really surprised it's only going to be running at 30 on the X, because that's supposed to be their flagship console. I mean, does that really then point to either the PS5 being that much more of a powerful console, or is this really speaking to how high-tech graphically Hellblade 2 is going to be? That'll be interesting to see when that comes out. Let's see. Okay, Adaption Shooter Ascendant this week. Okay, so there is a beta for a shooter. Adaption Shooter, interesting. Ascendant. Adaption Shooter sounds like emerging gameplay. That's cool. Palworld introducing raid bosses, if that's something you're into. I've never played Palworld, but I want to give it a shot sometime. Ninja Theory co-founder left the studio. Interesting. And I don't know if they have details on that, or that might be just related to, maybe, yeah, Hellblade 2 coming out, and maybe the guy's done. I don't know. I don't want to jump to any conclusions, but good for him. Guy that's worked on a lot of good games. If you look at the his track record. And then, let's see if there's anything else. Review of Freedom Planet 2. That's something I would like to check out. Mediterranean Inferno. Interesting. Wait a minute. Triggerheart Excelsia. That's a word I don't say much. It's weird, Switch getting all these very interesting shooting games, exclusive shooting games. Witcher Forecast stuff going on. I haven't watched that. Gameplay appears online of the Batman game that became Shadow of Mordor. That is very interesting. Just thinking of the cape and the jumping in Shadow of Mordor, that reminds me of Batman. But, funny, Shadow of Mordor was a really neat game that I just kind of forgot about, but it was really neat at the time. Some sales comparisons with the Series X and S versus the One. Very interesting. It looks like a little back and forth there. That's interesting, but it's on the same trajectory. Huh. Let's see. Wow, I didn't know there was some Nintendo Live 2024 threats. Interesting. Well, they arrested someone. Jim Kellex, it felt like a Batman game. Yeah, it did. That Shadow of Mordor did. Too bad what happened with Suicide Squad. Rumor, Sony has smaller first-party games planned for 2024, including new Astrobot. So a lot of this makes sense. Sony is seeing, they've got Stellar Blade, Rise of Ronin, Helldivers 2 this year. It's like a focus on, these aren't like these big narrative-driven cinematic games. They're just gamey games, and they're working. So to have more first-party games, smaller first-party games come out makes sense. Sony has so much awesome IP. They might as well just focus on making these smaller, fun experiences, including new Astrobot, which is the craziest thing, in my opinion, when it comes to Sony and the PS5, is they have this Astrobot mascot that they have a game for on the PS5, and it's incredible. There's, I think, the game that comes with the PS5, and then there's the VR one, and I forget if they're one and the same or not, but it's an amazing experience. They need a full-on game. It's very fun. It's the Mario of Sony. So hopefully that's what they're actually working on. Let's see. Yeah, Hollow Knight Silksong rated, so that means that should be coming out soon. I played a little bit of the first one. While it is a Metroidvania, it didn't hook me. Maybe I have to go back to it. How to play Snoop Dogg in Call of Duty Modern. I thought he was already in these games, and maybe it's another one. Let's wait. A parkour map is coming to Modern Warfare 3. Interesting. I wonder if they are integrating more platforming gameplay elements then. That would be interesting to see. Something to where maybe you can, jump after landing to maybe get some more height. Maybe reduce the stamina going down. So, yeah. Anything else? I think that's it. The other thing that I found this morning, there's this channel, Mr. Sujano, that's really informative for me. It talks about a lot more homebrew emulation, but even some general game news. We talked about a game called Demons of Astergos or something like that. Something. I'm going to have to check that out and let you guys know what I think, because it looks awesome. Looks like a Castlevania Ghosts and Goblins style game that was made recently, but was made as not only a 16-bit Genesis cartridge, but a Neo Geo cartridge, or whatever those things are called on a Neo Geo. Anyway, it looks great, and I'm going to check it out. There's a new version coming out soon. So I think that just about does it. Yeah, thanks for joining me this morning. If you really liked this, or like the morning news, please subscribe, like, comment, whatever. I'm going to try to keep this up because I do like, this little burst of just getting the gaming talk out of me. It's a lot of fun. Anyway, guys, have a good rest of the day. We'll talk tomorrow morning. All right, see ya.